Chris, first of all, we are having major issues with BTR this morning, so I apologize. Hopefully this will go smoothly. But thanks again for being on. You're always a great guest. So how are you this morning?
I'm doing good. Now, obviously, major issues in Blog Talk Radio. I may have heard this before many times, so I do understand.
Awesome. Well, I'm trying to mute it for 30 minutes, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's get straight into it. Let's start with the NHL announcement that the All-Star Game will be 3 20-minute games of 3-on-3. What's your reaction to this?
I hope these players have oxygen tanks at the ready, because look, if you've seen the 3-on-3, any player crazy enough to be double shifted like Erik Karlsson did last week, you get gassed quickly. I watched him by the end of about, I would say, maybe a 90-second shift, just gliding to the bench, which did almost result in a goal against. But look, it's going to be fun. I mean, you're going to see you're going to see scores that you've never seen in an All-Star game before. I get why they're doing it. But again, like I said, just have oxygen tanks ready, lots of Gatorade, and make sure Brandon Dubinsky is not manning the Gatorade bucket. And that, you're good.
It's funny you mentioned you're going to see scores you haven't seen. It's not like, the All-Star Game is, I mean, are we talking like 25-20?
I mean, that's the thing. It's very possible with this format. I wouldn't be shocked. You look at the rate of goals per 5 minutes, just with the 3-on-3s. Shoot, you could definitely see. You could see 20-18. You could see 18-15. I mean, we've seen in the 90s mostly. So, we've had a few crooked numbers the last few years as they've tinkered and tinkered and tinkered and tinkered and maybe tinkered some more with the format. But, hey, at the very least, you're going to see lots of good old-fashioned pond hockey scoring chances. So we'll have that.
That's an excellent point. And at least they approach it like it's an exhibition game and should be fun, unlike Major League Baseball. So, there has been an ongoing discussion about scoring being down. It's in decline, and it's down 0.8 of a goal per game since the first post-lockout season. Still, attendance has increased for the most part over the last 10 years. So there's only been a couple of years where it's down. Do you think low-scoring games ever will affect attendance, or is it more just, fans care about quality of play?
Yeah, it's a fun balance, and it's a great question, to be honest. Because I mean, at one point we were down. I think at about the 13 or 14 game mark, it was about 4.9. It was a little bit right around 4.95 or so, and the question got posed. But you looked, shots are up, scoring chances are slightly up. What gives? So of course, naturally, everybody targets the goaltender. That's not the reason. Players just can't frickin' shoot anymore. And the shot selection in the league is horrendous. If Bobby Farnham has as many goals as Sidney Crosby, some of that has to be on the player at some point here. It's not just it's just not great goaltending here. I mean, there is some awful goaltending to be had in the NHL. I'm looking at Square at Edmonton as an example, aside from last night, but maybe Tuukka Rask too. But to get scoring up is not the end of the world. Fans will come. People have to understand it's also early in the season. You're going to see low attendance numbers. The Islanders never draw before January 1st. They just don't. It's been that way since they've been born. I mean, Carolina never draws before December 1st. Why? College football. I mean, you could go down the line, and yes, there are excuses to this, and I understand that, but it's not something out of the norm. We've seen this before. It's not because of a lack of goal score. There are chances all over the place. The 3-on-3 is insanely entertaining. Just send a letter to Uncle Gary and ask him why he keeps tinkering with the league. There's your attendance problems, right? Partially right there.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Hey, Chris, it's a pleasure with you being on the show, also being a fellow tri-state person. Welcome. Thank you for addressing the Islander and some of the attendance issue. But you mentioned a specific person. So what's going on with Sidney Crosby? He doesn't seem to be like the same player.
You know, it's funny. We joke about this. You know, a lot of press people and a lot of fans go, well, what happens when these players get to a certain age that have played a ton of hockey? And though there's not any one significant advanced stat that just proves it, there's a few out there. I highly recommend Micah Curdy's work on Twitter. He goes by the Twitter handle Ineffective Math. He has an actual curve that shows the player decline as you reach a certain age. Basically, once you get to age 29, your prime is shot, and your numbers gradually start going down, aside from a few spikes. Some players are different. Sidney Crosby is one of them. You have to ask the question at some point, with Sidney Crosby's mandatory choice of having certain players play with him, if it's actually hurting him career-wise, because this year it's clear it is. You know, you have one little streak where you had 6 points in 5 games, but this also has to somewhat do with coaching. It is weird that since Mike Johnston's been brought aboard, in about 102 games, guys, Sidney Crosby is pointless in 46 of them. Think about that for a second. That's almost half. He's not even close to that with any other coach that he has had in his tenure. Heilsman, the rate was much less. Now, Jacques Martin doesn't have much of an influence, but anytime you hear the words Jacques Martin and offense in the same sentence, I usually typically hide my head under the pillows like any Peanuts character. So it's not good right now if you're a Sidney Crosby owner, but it's not hopeless either. I mean, look, the power play was abysmal early in the season. It's going to get better at least. I can't see it being even at 14, 15% as it is now. It's probably going to get closer to 20. You figure some of those goals are going to come Sidney Crosby's way. But to suggest and say that Sidney Crosby's 100-point seasons may be done in the NHL isn't far off, guys. It's a scary and sobering thought, but true.
Yeah.
So Chris, tell me, what are your thoughts on the changes to the overtime format? I mean, fewer points are being awarded for overtime unless you are in Vancouver.
Vancouver does to get out this year. And God, if you get the Rangers at a 3-on-3, just sign up for the shootout instantly. But for some teams, it's been unbelievable. I mean, look, the Devils have 5 wins in overtime. I mean, this is a team that couldn't win the shootout. Granted, they have 2 shootout wins and I think 3 overtime wins this year. For the most part, this has worked awesome. This has worked exactly the way the NHL didn't intend for it, but yet did. The action is unbelievably fun. The fans are into it much more than the shootout, which I'm sure the NHL wasn't. That wasn't their plan. All right, maybe it was. They got one right, and you have to give them due credit for this at least. I sit there and I watch a 3-on-3, and I'll see it on Twitter. People, even press are like 3-on-3 Twitter alert, and literally you have to compel yourself to watch this because you never know what's going to happen. And if that gets more and more people into the sport, it's fine by me.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That's really what it comes down to, just get people back in and into the sport as it is. We talked about the NHL not being shy about making changes. Next year, it looks like there will be, and this may be a done deal. I haven't seen the latest, but it looks like there will be a 5-day bye week for each team between the January 1st and February 28th. What are your thoughts on this?
I get why. It is funny though that you look and you just go, well, don't they have bye weeks already in some senses? I mean, I don't know. Early in the season, it seems like there's always a ton of days off. You get a couple days off for Thanksgiving. You get a couple days off for Christmas. These guys aren't tired. If it's being incorporated into the schedule as is and doesn't change the ending date of the regular season, that's not so bad. But something tells me that the regular season is ending 5 days later next year. So don't quote me on that just yet. But with the NHL, it wouldn't shock me. It's going to create an interesting scenario. I think the best example of this that I can see is the fact that you just have faulty NHL scheduling. Washington, for example, guys, had a back-to-back, have 4 days off, then had another back-to-back, and play 7 games in the next 11 nights.
Wow.
It's not like with Ted Leonsis owning the team, it's not like the Capitals can – look, the Capitals could pull rank on the Washington – let's be honest. They can pull rank here. This is Leonsis. This is his baby. The Capitals are his baby. And that shouldn't happen with the NHL. I get with TV contracts, and they do have a couple games on NBCSN, I believe, in this span, but still, this is on scheduling more than anything. Do you really need a 5-day bye on top of it? Probably not. But they're going to do it anyway. It will create more instances where you have rested teams playing rested teams, which I get. That increases the entertainment of the product, so I do understand it in that sense. But there is a part of me that wants to see a team and how they respond playing their third game in 4 nights. It may be the sadomasochist in me, but hey, I love seeing this because sometimes you will get surprising results, like anytime Ottawa plays Columbus and you're fully expecting Ottawa to win, and all of a sudden, oops, it doesn't happen. But that sort of thing. So you never do really know.
Yeah, excellent points. So what are 3 teams that have surprised you either way, success or failure? What 3 teams have surprised you the most this year?
Let's see. Most obvious. The Rangers have surprised me the most. It pains me. It really does. Ted, I know. I am surprised that they are actually able to win as many games playing an utterly unsustainable style of hockey. It's just for the fan, it has to be of other teams. It has to be just cringeworthy. For media, it has to just be. You just want to bang your head against the wall repeatedly. How do teams keep losing to this team? And yet it happens. I mean, for example, the biggest example of the Rangers I could give is the other night last week against Toronto. There is no way the Rangers win this game 99 times out of 100. But a puck goes off a defenseman and then a puck goes from center ice and in, and they win 4-3. They play St. Louis and score 6 goals somehow against Jake Allen, who had a 266-minute shutout streak going in. Okay. Their shooting percentage is almost at 12%, guys. Their save percentage at 5-on-5 is over 950. There are numbers that just do not belong in the lexicon of hockey. Lundqvist's save percentage never been even at 930. There is going to be a correction at some point. That's one team. The other 2 teams, second has to be Boston, and it's not because of record. This is because this is a Boston team that's usually predicated on a pretty strong penalty kill and really crappy power plays. I mean, their power play. Look, almost every original 6 team in the last 2 years has had a below-average power play. what happened in the summer with Boston that magically said, oh, we're just going to start scoring goals on the man advantage like it's just raining men, on a women's dating site. I mean, this is something just nuts. They're over 30% on the power play. It seems like every game I watch, they score at least one. It's a lot. Sure, it's a lot of fun to watch. But then there's the flip side. They can't kill a penalty if you put a gun to their head. I mean, they're around, say, 71, maybe 72% right now, give or take. That's 30th in the league. So they have the top-ranked power play and the worst penalty kill. The last time that happened was 25 years ago with the 1990 Edmonton Oilers.
Wow.
I mean, by the way, that team did go on to win a Stanley Cup, but that's because it was still in the high-scoring era of the NHL. So, right. I mean, if your power play is like 36%, who cares if your penalty kills around 70 at that point? I mean, you're getting 7-8 power play opportunities a game. If you score 3 power play goals a night, that's going to offset whatever you give up. Their penalty differential is not as high as the 1990 Oilers or even the late 80s Oilers. So that's a problem. Tuukka Rask has been horrendous in net too often. And it's scary that you could think of a timeshare with Jonas Gustafsson and Tuukka Rask, and now you actually can. So that's 2. Mm. The third one, you know what? I know it's not an immense surprise, but it has to be the Dallas Stars. I never thought this two-headed goalie system was going to work there. And somehow Lindy Ruff has done something magical, a.k.a. the Buffalo Sabres of the 2006-2007 season. And this team's on fire. They're fun to watch. And then when they don't score, they still find ways to win, which is uncharacteristic. Did you even see any of this last year other than little bits and stretches? Probably not. Hagen and Benner both on pace for 100 points. John Klingberg is a potential Norris Trophy candidate. I'll just take the frickin' potential right off it right now. He is a Norris Trophy candidate. I mean, he's getting better defensively. He's a young kid. He's in his second year. What sophomore slump? And then you look at some of the role players, and you sit there. When you look at the Stars from top to bottom, guys, you go, okay, great top, really good top 6. Very good top defensive pairing. And after that, you just go, okay, 2 pretty good goalies, huh? And you do wonder at some point if the bottom's going to fall out a little bit. But it's not going to that much, it seems. They do have a workable system in place that seems to be excellent for them.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. It seems like one goalie, though, is playing much better than the other. Even late, I should say, we still have one prominent goalie and kind of go back to a more traditional look at it.
You know what? You kind of saw this, last couple of years in Anaheim, and then obviously Frederik Andersen took the reins. I wouldn't be shocked if this is, the first year in this quote-unquote back and forth kind of go. I don't think you'll see a clear goalie until the playoffs with this team, and that's just fine. They don't seem to care. It works well for them. They're posting better numbers, and they're staying fresh, which is important. Look, Kari Lettonen's played a lot of hockey. People forget that in the old days, the Atlanta Thrashers, Kari Lettonen saw way more scoring chances and shots than any goalie should have. It was obscene. I mean, unfortunately, bean counters weren't as good then, but, I mean, the wear and tear he took almost kind of made this a good idea. Now, look, Antti Niemi's kind of in the same boat. He can't play a ton of games either. So, for them, this is perfect. I mean, neither goalie really can play more than 50 games without losing their effectiveness. So, if you play, say, 45-37 split, which seems to be their plan or something close, then why not go with it? They're winning games. They're playing well. Of course, when they start losing, fans will question this, but that's fans' nature. So right now, why worry about it?
Good point.
So, hey, I have a question about the Canadians, Chris. Is it safe to say they've already clinched the playoff spot? And are they actually as good as their current record states they are?
They're another one. Maybe not as bad as the Rangers because, look, Carey Price is just that good. I watched it last night, and Carey Price did look rusty. And I talked to Dennis Gorman of the AP last night before the game. I'm sitting there on the train heading down to my fiance's. This is a true story. He sits there and goes, "There is no way that this game hits the over." And I'm like, if I had the money right now, I would bet you $1,000 right on the spot that this game, you see at least 6 goals in this game combined. And he's like, really? I was like, you have a rusty Carey Price, and Yaroslav Halak is completely hit or miss against the Canadians. Naturally, what happens is Halak gets yanked, Carey Price gives up 3, has some good moments, but also had some bad moments as well, where the Islanders could have easily had 5 or 6 goals last night. And that's rust. You expect that for a guy that's been off for a few weeks. And it goes to show you, there's some holes in this Montreal team still. Obviously, the way Michel Therrien has handled the Alexander Semin situation has not been ideal. You had to know that going in. Semin is a proud guy, and he doesn't like being treated the way he has been, especially with Carolina and now Montreal. Therrien is one of the most stubborn individuals you will ever meet in life, never mind in hockey. So you almost had to expect this. And yet they're still winning anyway. Dale Weiss has 9 goals, guys. Okay? He has 3 times the amount of goals as Sidney Crosby. I mean, at one point he had as many or more goals than Alex Ovechkin. Just try to wrap your head around that one for just even half a millisecond, and you realize, oh God, what have we done? But it's not the scary part with Weiss is it's not a fluke. Weiss had this knack of scoring in junior that people forget. Can he do it over the course of an entire season? Probably not, but if you give the guy enough playing time, he probably could score 20 to 25 goals. If he gets you 15 assists or so, that's darn close to a 40-point season for a guy that's playing bottom 6 minutes. I would say that's really good. So they have that. The Torrey Mitchell injury may be significant because that Fleischman, the line with Fleischman, him and Weiss were excellent. Teams had a tough time playing them. They really didn't have much of an answer for them. And Weiss could annoy a goalie. You don't find many fourth lines of that, in hockey like that. It's basically like a handful each year. Maybe 2, 3 tops, that are just dominant bottom 6 units. And that buoyed a lot of Montreal scoring early. So if you combine that with the fact that you have a very good top line in Montreal and you have a pretty good second line, it's not a surprise at all. People have to say, okay, some of their advanced stats numbers are completely unsustainable. You can just sit there and go, okay, they're going to drop here. But with Carey Price in that, they're not going to drop that much because he's capable of producing a season with a save percentage of .930, .935, maybe even .940. Whereas Henrik Lundqvist is not, based on the system he plays and the amount of chances that the Rangers give up. The Rangers give up so many more chances. They're 26th in the league as far as high danger scoring chances allowed. They're basically the 5th worst. Montreal is about 19th, so it's a little bit better. That's why the Habs it's a little more sustainable at least.
So I guess the question is, that's the bane of my existence, and to every Long Islander, will the Islanders' move to Brooklyn be a good one long term?
It's the question that everybody asks, and it's the answer there's no real answer for. It really is. Short term, it's not. I mean, I know lots of people that have flat out said, I will not go to an arena with a crooked scoreboard and a freaking car in the back. It's just there's too, as one person said to me, there's just too many odd things going on with that arena. And I think the other one that was kind of funny by a press member, it looks like I'm playing in the Rusty Chum Bucket. I mean, if I started whistling the theme to the SpongeBob SquarePants song, it would be appropriate right now. But all kidding aside, the arena itself is not that bad. I mean, but it's one of those things where between the obstructed view and the score, visually, it's something to get used to. And I think that's a problem for the casual fan. It always is. You're looking for a product that, things are in symmetry, et cetera. Even the seats are not exactly symmetrical, Ted.
Wow.
I can attest to this because I've done a couple arena tours there. And you just sit there and go, I mean, part of the one press box is obstructed because of the way they set it up.
God.
Who thought about this, while making this? And, it's unfortunate, but I do think I don't know if they can sustain long term because Long Islanders a lot of them are really diehard about not going there. And that does concern me.
Totally. Chris, I got to jump in here and tell you, I get a call every other week from their ticket office asking me about, hey, are you buying your 10-pack or you're buying your 5-pack for this year? No, I'm not. Will I go there once this season? Yes, I will. But adamant about it. But, I mean, you made some good points earlier on when you were talking about the numbers and the first 11 games of the season and versus what the Islanders did last season overall with attendance. I mean, it's an upgraded product, and hockey doesn't start the first 11 games of the season. The casual fan doesn't show up because there's been times in the previous years I was in Nassau Coliseum, and you could pick your seat during the weeknight.
Yep, they used to call it the Tuesday night move down. Start up at 300 level, slide on down. By the end of the game, you were almost right at center ice.
Well, Chris, it's been fantastic having you on the show. You're always a great guest, extremely informative about hockey. So, again, thank you for being on. Will you let people know where you can be found in the greater universe that we live in?
The thing called the internet or the light web, and not to be confused with the dark web where certain organizations like to hide. Folks, you can find me as always. My Twitter handle is Chris Wassel DFS. You can find me on Dobberhockey with my weekly Saturday morning, I call it the Saturday night special column. You can also find me on today's Slapshot talking about a variety of topics like whether the Rangers are actually sustainable on this planet and many others. You can also find me over at thefakehockey.com, espousing good old-fashioned daily fantasy hockey advice. Obviously, Fantasy Hockey X, our weekly Tuesday night show, which is not like any other because we actually laugh at our own misery. We're losing money potentially here, and we can still laugh about this, which is great. And, of course, a bunch of other sites that never seem to get time and et cetera, but I'll soon be writing for the Hockey Guys and RotoCurve. And by the way, something I do want people to check out, there's a lot of fantasy hockey and hockey experts on a relatively new app called Sway. That's 2 Y's, guys, SWAYY. You can find it on your iPhone. I highly recommend it. You can vote in polls. There's a lot of commentary. You'll find some of the best and brightest in the fantasy hockey landscape. Pete Jensen, Neil Parker, Rob Mayen, myself, and others. And it's a fun experience. A lot of good debate, and you can search for pretty pictures of players or potentially incriminating ones as well, as I found out. Apparently, if you search on their site for Patrick Kane pictures, you get some pretty bad ones.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's some bad ones. But, look, it's an app that absolutely has to get a little more press, and it has been on Shark Tank, so interestingly enough. So go check it out and check me out there. And as always, it's a pleasure to be on with you guys.
Well, thank you, and enjoy your Saturday and enjoy your weekend, and hopefully hockey will go well today. So, and we'll of course have you on again if you can make it during the hockey season. So, thanks very much.
Absolutely, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. So, Ted, hopefully you are there, Ted. And,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we're never really sure with Blog Talk Radio today. So we just have actually we're a little bit over time, but I want to ask you real fast. First of all, have you already rushed out and bought Adele's newest release, 25? And did you watch the Ronda Rousey fight last week? And even if you did or didn't, what did you think about her loss? And sub question, Holly Holm, excellent fighter. Honestly, I prefer the fights, but when you market people, a lot of times it comes down to attractiveness. I'm not in charge of that. Holm, just on the surface. No, seriously, this is a question. But because MMA has gotten a lot of pub over the fact that Rousey's an attractive female, right? That's got to be part of the selling point. Holm maybe not as attractive. So is MMA upset in any way that maybe she's not, and that selling point is gone a little bit?
Of course. Come on. I mean,